Well, to other news, now media freedom among the gains that stand out in a shining light. In other words, difficult governance by the 6 ANC-led administrations. That's as the country this year commemorates 30 years of democracy. Newzroom Afrika speaks to 3 veteran journalists who plied their trade during the dark days of apartheid and into the democratic dispensation. Juniour Khumalo filed this report.
It was a matter of 1 week, all black publications were closed down.
We're in between the rock and the hard place.
They pulled guns on you. It was actually a no-go area for some of those meetings for us.
Heart-wrenching details of what life was like working as a journalist during apartheid. Newzroom Afrika spoke to 3 veteran journalists who plied their trade during the dark days of apartheid and into the dawn of democracy. One of them is Eric Naki, politics editor at one of the country's most renowned papers, The Citizen.
The biggest gain is to report freely, without fear, without favor. These days when you're reporting, don't look behind your back.
But it wasn't always like this. Naki detailed how unforgiving his formative years were as a cub reporter in apartheid South Africa.
At the time, most journalists were senior, very old guys. It was not like today where everybody's almost young. At the time, you would find it difficult to get in there because it was big chaps who were really occupying the space. Our offices were broken into by unknown people. At the time, media in general was spied on by the system. Many newsrooms had people that were there employed, but they were kind of spies in the newsroom. They were working for the system. The system would know that what story you are going to have tomorrow.
The times and changes were even tougher for young black women hoping to carve out a career in the industry.
As a female journalist, we were assigned to soft stories. At the time, before 76, we were to write about the Girl Guides, about softball, about, soft stories. Came 1976, the story became too big. The male journalists were too few to cover the story. So women journalists were thrown into the township to sink or swim.
White journalists didn't have it their way either.
The challenges that I had as a white reporter was going to certain far-right meetings. They pulled guns on you. It was actually a no-go area for some of those meetings for us.
The reporting, especially that of black scribes, was mainly informed by the oppressive nature of the times.
You were forced to be a reporter and also an activist of sort because you were also oppressed like ordinary people, like the public. So you were not immune from persecution by the state at the time.
But change was inevitable. Thanks in part to the unrelenting reporting of brave journalists such as Naki and Matiane and others in the 1970s and 80s. Economic sanctions against Pretoria, escalating unrest, and violence coupled with cultural boycotts in the mid to late 80s accelerated the march to democracy.
Things were changing. They released a bit in terms of focusing on us, because the whole world was focusing on South Africa because there was negotiations for the new order. Mandela was out, Oliver Tambo was inside the country, all the people, Chris Hani and others, they were inside the country.
Democracy on 27 April 1994 brought with it reform in legislation. And most importantly, media freedom enshrined in Section 16 in the Bill of Rights.
When the Constitution after 94 was adopted, things changed. We were completely free in terms of the press, in terms of the media. Now we can report what we like.
Well, from where I am seated, I see a lot of changes. And I see a lot of black girls, doing great work. I see them tackling stories that in our days we would not have been given a chance to.
It's very nice to be free, to be able to write what you want to write, to be able to write when you see something that you do not agree with, to be able to put your opinion out there. You know, I've never been told in my professional career what to write and what not to write.
Democracy and our acceptance back into the international community has allowed for, among other things, the expansion and diversifying of news outlets and media houses in South Africa. In May 2019, Newzroom Afrika became the third 24-hour news channel to launch in less than 30 years of freedom. Its daily broadcasts are a testament and a nod to those who braved the past to pave the way for the future, where journalists no longer have to look over their shoulders for merely doing their jobs. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Juniour Khumalo in Johannesburg.